Be honest, do you really think Microsoft buying Activision is gonna do anything for their culture?
Okay, so before we start, this was requested by patron Luke Johnston, so thanks for that. So, let's return to boss battles. You wanna know one thing that can make an already great boss fight even better?
Presentation!
I mean, a boss theme can slap even if it's played for every boss fight in the game, but when you give a character their own boss theme, that just serves to make it that much more personal, and as a result, that much more memorable. Now, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. I'm looking for themes that are not only bangers, but reflect the characters that they play for. Also, I'm not including themes from fighting games because generally boss themes are character themes by default in those games. Also, I want to limit the number of final boss themes if I can help it, because those are also character themes by default and I don't want them to dominate the list. And I ain't using licensed themes, you got that? I don't want copyright breathing down my neck again. Alright, grab a drink and grab your glow sticks, because MC Quarter Guy is ready to drop this mixtape like it's magma! It's game time! Starting off the list is a track from the Kingdom Hearts series. Now with the Dark Seeker saga behind us, I'm hoping that we've finally seen the last of Xehanort. Seriously, this guy is the very definition of...
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
We fought him, we fought his Heartless, and we fought his Nobody. So, we going with Forza del Male, or Darkness of the Unknown?
Perché non entrambi?
We're gonna go with Birth by Sleep Final Mix on this one, and the theme in question is Forza dell'Oscurità, the theme that plays against Super Boss No Heart. This enemy is a data replica of Master Xehanort's Keyblade armor, which Xemnas also used in his armed controller form in Kingdom Hearts 2. This is actually a combination of Forza del Male, the theme from the Ansem Riku battle in KH1, and Darkness of the Unknown, the theme from the Xemnas battle in KH2, hence the theme's name. And while it is a mashup, both themes feed into each other very well. Forza del Male's bombastic intro and its powerful and oppressive organ and heavy percussion mark the beginning of the piece, symbolizing Ansem's menace and power, while the section of Darkness of the Unknown brings in fast-paced strings that bring in the tension of the battle, which embodies the mystery and authority that Xemnas represents. Meanwhile, the whole piece is accented by the chorus and piano which is present in both original pieces. Both of these combine to create a musical portrait of the speed chess master Xehanort proved to be, and even may have been musical foreshadowing to the original master's return in later games. Of course, there's a good amount of people who might not have heard this theme given that it's a tough-as-nails super boss, but it later came back for the Data Xehanort battle in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. Kind of like how Xehanort himself never knew when to quit until the very end. With Undertale being the big success that it was, with its quirky cast of characters, unique battle system, and emphasis on player choice determining the ending, it was only natural that people would want an encore! Encore! Even so, Deltarune took a bit of an interesting approach. Choice was less important, the battle system was based on communion, and it's being released periodically. One thing that didn't change was that there's still a cast of special characters and a soundtrack that's chock full of hyperlink blocked. The window-breaking ensemble dark horse of Chapter 2 of Deltarune was the desperate sales dude, Spamton G. Spamton, the broken man with broken language who helped a friend of mine land the leading role in an upcoming web series. Check out the Special Kangaroo later, but for now, let's talk about Big Shot! This is the song that plays during the Spamton Neo battle, which, depending on your choices, is either optional or the chapter's final boss. Having read Spamton's lore and what he's gone through prior to this fight, he's in full desperation mode. This is actually a remix of his normal boss theme, Now's Your Chance to Be A, but unlike that theme, which is simply a bit screwball in the side pocket, this theme is menacing, intense, and downright butts in the belfry. It's basically telling you that Spamton's been broken down by insanity and desperation, and after he went from top of the heap to living in a goddamn garbage can, the little sponge ain't so agreeable anymore. You can also hear the phone ringing in the background at points, the calls that Spamton wishes he were still getting, along with the glitched out speech that comes with Spamton's other themes. From this theme alone, you can tell how broken Spamton has become. As hilarious as Spamton can be, you can tell from this theme alone that despair has driven him to insanity from the intense beat and the borderline sorrowful segments of the track. Now that's what a theme should do. Not a bad deal, am I right? A common thing with many long-running series is recurring characters. Yeah, there are a few exceptions, but a lot of series have at least one character that just keeps coming back for more. What's less common is that theme that keeps coming back, like that predator who won't rest until that one persistent prey has been caught. Won't you ever learn? God, I hope not. Even after 29 years, this earworm still gets my blood pumping every time that menace comes back. The theme that accompanies the space pirate's most relentless terror is one of twisted menace, and every time that Ridley shows his face, you know you're about to feel it in your ears. At least when those ears aren't assaulted by that piercing screech. Thing is, this theme wasn't even originally associated specifically with Ridley. Dragon also had this theme in Super Metroid, but he's made it his own in nearly every appearance he's made since. The general vibe of this theme gives off the feel of a cunning predator who really wants to enjoy making you his next meal, with the driving beat pulsing throughout, along with the transition between the sections. But what I really appreciate with this theme is how it's evolved with each iteration. From the techno backing of Meta Ridley and Metroid Prime to match his newly designed cybernetic enhancements, to the robotic feel of the copy known as Mecha Ridley in Zero Mission, to the awesome orchestra-like rendition of his theme in Other M, where the soundtrack was one of the few things about the game that most people agree didn't suck. And most recently, the multi-phase progression in Samus Returns for the fight against Proteus Ridley, from fast-paced and frantic in the first phase, to heavy and oppressive in the final phase. Hell, even Nintendo Land had an awesome rendition of this iconic theme. And when the latest version accompanied Ridley's reveal trailer for Smash Ultimate, forget about it. This isn't just the theme of a fight. This is the theme of a hunt between the persistent nemesis who won't stay dead and the hunter who keeps putting him down.
Exercising your demons never sounded so good.
While we're on the subject of how the theme of a character from a long-running Nintendo franchise has evolved over the years, let's talk about a series that has had generally more consistent quality, and a theme that has had even more time to evolve. About as much time as the Grand Penguin Poobah himself. It's said that the perfect piece of music doesn't exist, but that's only because perfection is a dead end, leaving no room for growth or evolution. And the king rejects such a roadblock. Like DDD's progression from self-proclaimed king to self-made king over these past 30+ years, his theme has grown in a similar way. Now I hope I'm not dating myself too badly here, but to truly appreciate this theme, we have to go way back to where the whole thing began. That, of course, would be the Game Boy era, where the Big Bird was just the equivalent of a schoolyard bully, and his theme was nothing more than just a simple chiptune loop. Yeah, it was simple, but effective. Flash forward to 1996 and DDD's 16-bit debut. Better graphics and better sound quality meant that just a simple loop would no longer cut it. With the newly extended theme, his presence in the ring was made known, and you knew he was ready to put on a show for the crowd. That is until the DS remake introduced Masked DDD, with a variation on his theme that was faster and more aggressive, letting you know that this time it was personal. Eventually, Star Allies would add another extension onto this theme, bulking it up like the king himself in his newly swole form with a longer and bigger battle requiring a bigger and bulkier theme, but no less memorable because you wouldn't forget a transformation like this, am I right? All leading up to his most recent outing in Forgotten Land, with both his classic and masked-themed variants receiving a primal power-up, with Roar of DDD being slower and heavier, marking the Monarch's power and authority, and Masked and Wild becoming frenzied and high-paced, showing how Forgo DDD has lost all control and is acting like a wild animal. It's crazy how such a simple theme has evolved so much over the years, but when you're the most badass of all birds, the sky's the limit. Even if you had to teach yourself how to fly. Okay, so with Final Fantasy, themes that are specific to a character aren't exactly common. With a few exceptions, character boss themes are typically limited to final bosses. Granted, some of those themes are iconic, look up Dancing Mad as a prime example of that, but like I said, I'm trying to limit those. Of course, when a theme follows a character everywhere he goes, I can't exactly ignore that. Just from those first orchestra notes, you know you're about to face someone very powerful and very, very angry. One Winged Angel, the theme associated with the most intimidating mama's boy ever created, is one of the most recognized themes in the entire series, and for damn good reason. This theme embodies Sephiroth's anger and messiah complex in a way that lets you know how powerful, and let's face it, how crazy he is. It's gotten to the point that it's become his leitmotif even more than his original character theme, those chosen by the planet. Appropriately enough, this theme originated with the fight against Sephiroth's most powerful form, Safer Sephiroth, and yeah, this form's appearance matches the theme, with the imposing orchestra-like melody and fearsome percussion booming throughout, showing his divine power and rage. And if you want to add lyrics, what better language for a psycho with a god complex than God's own Latin?
Almost completely ripped from Carmina Burana.
And when he returned in the Advent Children movie, his theme got a revamp, with a full orchestral rock performance by the Black Mages, and a new set of lyrics again expressing his cold fury, but also his refusal to simply remain a memory. It was this version that played when his reveal for Smash broke the internet. Seriously, he just casually splits Galeem in half and throws Mario from his sword while duking it out with Cloud. Who else could do that? And of course, we can't forget that when Sephiroth came to Kingdom Hearts as a super boss, he brought One Winged Angel with him. And most recently, Sephiroth couldn't go 1/3 into the remake trilogy without sticking his sword in it, and not only is the rendition of his theme crazier than ever, it's part of a whole 4-movement suite. At this point, it's pretty much a given that wherever Sephiroth shows up, they'll be playing this iconic piece at full blast. And honestly, can you blame him? With a theme as menacing as that, it's no wonder it's a highlight of Final Fantasy concerts. Who needs Meteor, am I right? I don't typically consider myself to be one for hip-hop, but Mad World was an exception for me. Yeah, it's really violent and ultra crude, but it's so over the top that it crosses the line twice. And the soundtrack freaking slaps, man. Especially the boss themes from the bottom of the ranks to the very top. Speaking of which, let's talk about the Black Baron. A dude who, at first glance, seems to serve no other purpose than to have an assload of extra livestock piled for all the deaths he suffers to show off the bloodbath challenges. Until you reach rank 1, and it turns out that he's the big numero uno, and he saved his best life just for you. Look Pimpin' is surprisingly chill for a final boss theme, and for most other situations, yeah, it simply wouldn't work out. But considering the kind of guy the Black Baron is, laid back, full of swag, and cocky as fuck, it works. You got this nice-paced hip-hop beat with lyrics that just ooze with the Baron's attitude and style. This guy worked hard to get to this pinnacle of Deathwatch. He's powerful, he knows it, and he's not afraid to let you know it. To him, you're just some schmo off the streets, and he doesn't like the idea of some nobody coming to claim that flying throne of his, so he's out to give you one hell of a pimp slap. The lyrics basically show how the Baron thinks that Jack is cramping his style, and he's about to show him what happens when you muscle in on his territory. You can just tell the kind of pride he has in his strength and skills, and just how little effort he thinks he's gonna need to wipe the floor with you. I gotta say, it also really fits the setting for this fight. A boxing ring on top of a high-rise filled with Deathwatch spectators? Yeah, I think that calls for a high-energy theme like this. Not to mention, it actually has a hook that makes auto-tune not suck.
Not an easy feat, I assure you.
Now, to be fair, he does have a second theme that kicks in when he's down to half health, called So Cold, which basically illustrates that you've seriously pissed him off. But let's be honest, while it is a bop, it doesn't fit the Baron quite as well. Look Pimpin', on the other hand, gives off the kind of energy that a deadly, superpowered pimp would have. And let's face it, if they ever made a true sequel to Mad World, they'd find a way to bring the Baron back again. Of all the surprises of the first half of the year, this one is probably the biggest. How the fresh hell did Tango Gameworks, a studio owned by Bethesda, give us the most un-Bethesda release imaginable? Hi-Fi Rush stunned everybody by giving us a focused character action and rhythm hybrid dripping with style and charm absolutely out of nowhere, when the corporation that owns the studio is infamous for over-marketed, buggy open worlds with AAA prices. This game is an absolute blast, and the integration of music into the very gameplay plays a huge part of that. Unfortunately, I did say I couldn't add licensed music. Oh wait, there's a streamer mode. Yosh! So let's get back to where we once belonged and talk about the themes of Vandelay's top brass. Specifically, this one. Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. QG, I expect you to rock! How do you make a game of musical Simon Says thrilling? By making it a showdown with the head of security and backing it with a rock remix of a James Bond spy thriller piece. Negotiation is the theme that plays during the boss fight with Corsica, and unlike most of the other bosses that are decidedly more bombastic with themes to match, this theme plays more to the tension of the situation. This fight isn't like the others. It's a standoff where you're matching your responses to her attacks as you circle around each other like it's a samurai flick. And the theme is appropriately more tense with the pulsing beat as you await Corsica's next move. It basically says, one false move and the show's over. It feels, how you say, more grounded. And honestly, that fits Corsica to a T. She's the most serious of the department heads, aside from maybe the big boss himself, and honestly, she's the most reasonable. By the time the fight takes place, she's actually looking into Chai's claims about the Spectre project instead of blindly following the narrative that Kale gave her, and she realizes that something doesn't add up. But Chai did just break into her office and trash all her security measures, so she is kinda pissed. As the fight progresses, the music seems to shift focus as the beat gets slower and the melody gets more pronounced, as the dialogue indicates that Chai is getting to Corsica. In a sense, it gives the feeling that this isn't just a battle between Chai and Corsica, but also between Corsica's pride and her reason. It's a marvelously intense theme for an equally tense battle that perfectly fits Corsica, who is honestly one of the best characters in the game. Sometimes the biggest source of hype is the element of surprise.
Yeah, Todd Howard, maybe you should take a hint from your own studios.
Rivalry is the purest essence of battle and competition, whether it's in gaming, movies, television, or even real life. Warriors locked in an eternal struggle, destined to come to blows again and again, with everything to prove to themselves and to each other. Like Samus vs. Ridley, Ali vs. Frazier, Packers vs. Bears. It's a timeless trope and one that makes a story that much more powerful. And when there's a piece of music that truly captures the spirit of that struggle, well, there's no replica for that. Been a long time since I've talked about Tales of the Abyss, isn't it? But you wouldn't forget something like this no matter how long you've been away. Trust me, if you've played it, you know. Meaning of Birth plays during the climactic battle between Luke, the protagonist, and Ash, his rival and direct foil. And this theme symbolizes the clash between both of these characters. Now, while normally this would cost points, there's a reason it works in terms of this list. And it's because Luke and Ash are cut from the same cloth as close to literally as it gets. It's an original versus clone story flipped on its head. Luke, the guy you've been following the whole time, is actually the clone who was used to replace the original Luke. Meanwhile, Ash, said original Luke, became a rightfully bitter asshole who was serving Van while secretly planning to get even with the bastard. By the time this battle comes up, both Luke and Ash have their crosshairs locked on Van, but only one of them is gonna get that chance. Luke is trying to prove that he's truly become his own person, and Ash is out to take back what's been stolen from him. And the theme reflects this climactic battle while also serving as an orchestral remix of Karma, the game's opening theme. What makes this theme really work with this battle is the two sides being represented by the orchestral sections at play here. On the one hand, you have the woodwinds and strings, representing Luke as he is now with how much he's grown. On the other hand, you have the brass and percussion representing Ash, and the anger he's lived with all this time, considering that his life was stolen from him to create the very replica he's crossing blades with. The contrast between these two sections adds to the emphasis of the theme and how it reflects this fateful duel. and they come together to create a truly grand spectacle that makes this fight all the more impactful. It's the way a battle like this should be accompanied, especially considering that this is a battle of their beliefs and their identity. Just them, their skills, and their music. Seriously, the arena is nothing but white. Even more so than Mad World, the big focus of the No More Heroes series is the boss fights, and while some of the boss battles in Mad World reuse themes, each boss theme in No More Heroes is unique to that fight alone, and for the most part, they work wonders for these battles, with a few exceptions. Let's face it, not even Beethoven's Ninth could make the fight with Jasper good. But the one that best fits the character we're fighting against? Well, to me, the answer was obvious.
You know this song?
Nope.
How tragic. Then let me teach you.
Margaret Moonlight is widely considered to be one of the best boss fights in No More Heroes 2 and the series as a whole, and one of the biggest reasons why is her boss theme, Philistine. The theme is essentially one big diss track sung by Santa Destroy's most deadly goth chick. The whole reason Travis is climbing up the ranks of the UAA a second time is because Jasper Bat Jr. gunned down his friend, and throughout the game he's using that desire for revenge to mercilessly cut down everyone in his way. Of course, he pretty much tied his own hands, because the reason that Jasper killed Bishop in the first place was because Travis offed Jasper's father and brothers in the first game.
In a series of side quests, may I remind you?
The point is, Travis's quest for revenge doesn't make him a hero, it makes him a freaking hypocrite. And he's beginning to realize the brutality of the UAA after his bout with Ryuji. But a certain opponent isn't satisfied with Travis simply starting to get it. No, she's gotta shoot it straight into his face, first musically, and then literally. She considers herself a Grim Reaper, and her favorite prey just so happens to be hypocritical wannabe heroes. She loves to boast about her kill count. She calls Travis out on his blatant hypocrisy over his own kill count and his quest for revenge while he brought it upon himself. And she even delights in viciously mocking him. Even without the message in the lyrics, the song is a total bop. It's got a real solid beat that's absolutely dance-worthy, and the melody burrows its way into your brain and never goes away. There's even some really smooth segments that sound ethereally beautiful in there. But as wonderful as a theme as it is, even on its own, adding in the context of the song is what truly makes it complete. Like I said, this is one huge diss track, and if Travis wasn't starting to recognize the humanity of his opponents the fight before, he was certainly starting to by now, if the aftermath was any indication.
Riveting melody, isn't it?
Catchy as hell.
And before we move on, here are some honorable mentions. Getsus' theme from Pokemon Black and White 2. Yeah, this theme shows how insane he's gotten in the brain. Trap Phantasm from Mega Man ZX Advent, especially the remix from the Legacy Collection. Battle with Magus from Chrono Trigger, a dark, menacing theme for the Fiend Lord himself. The Defender from Shovel Knight, a climactic theme for the final struggle between Shovel Knight and Black Knight. Against the Black Knight from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, an imposing theme for an imposing rival. Gaizok Space Pirates from the Wonderful 101, especially with the Teoform theme that ramps it up. And Your Contract Has Expired from A Hat in Time, a fun yet appropriately creepy theme for the battle against the Snatcher. And now let's see what the Arcade Nation has to say with this month's patron picks.
The insane version of Crash Bandicoot 1's Dr. Cortex theme. It's the surf guitar. It just makes this piece work so much better.
Man, I can't think of anything that pairs with Grit more perfectly than this laid-back banjo riff. Fits him to a T.
I would go with Dynamo for Mega Man X5 and 6. The distortion you hear in the background and some of the foreground riffs highlights something about Dynamo himself. He gives off this personality of being cool and suave, but really is a barely contained psychopath just waiting to unleash mayhem for the sake of it.
Like I've said before, what makes a great character boss theme has a tighter definition than what makes a great boss theme in general. Any boss theme can be a banger, but when it comes to themes associated with a character, simply being a bop is only part of the equation. You also need to make it a theme that properly conveys the character themselves. And nowhere is this more apparent than with Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Which one?
Yes! I couldn't choose just one of them! Revengeance is a textbook example of how to describe a character through music. On their own, each of the boss themes from this game is a badass theme in its own right, but together, they make a perfect set list of musical profiles from top to bottom. You may not understand from the melody alone, which is how fights in this game generally start, but once you hit a certain point, the lyrics kick in like a Kamen Rider finisher. And it's these lyrics that make the songs complete. They do a crazy good job of getting into these characters' heads, their attitudes, their personalities, their motivations. I can't do a deep dive on them all due to time constraints, but let's look at a few highlights. How about Mistral and her theme, A Stranger I Remain? A pumping track that reflects Mistral's view of herself as a stranger that only finds purpose amid the fires of war.
I finally found what I was looking for. A place where I can be without a
Or Rules of Nature, which is used for the fight against Metal Gear Ray, which compares the machine nearing obsolescence to a starving predator. And The Only Thing I Know for Real, which is a dive into Jetstream Sam's view of how he's lost sight of what he once fought for, but continues to fight because it's all he still knows. And capping off the game is a shift in views between two themes. The fight with Metal Gear Excelsis is backed by a theme called Collective Consciousness, which reflects the uber-nationalistic view that Lydon thinks is Armstrong's agenda. Until the senator reveals that said nationalism is the very thing he hates. Leading to the final battle theme and spawner of memes, It Has to Be This Way. A song that shows that Lydon and Armstrong may be more alike than either would be willing to admit. Yeah, the people behind these songs knew the assignment and aced it with the flying colors of hard rock. Driving melodies that get the heart pumping, combined with lyrics that truly give you a picture of the enemies you're fighting. How could I single out one when the entire soundtrack goes this hard?
And it's themes like these that make these boss battles really feel complete. When you know who you're fighting and the music lets you know, it adds that extra bit of punch that fight needs. Like I said, presentation goes a long way. To think that I slept on this game for 10 years. I'm the Quarter Guy, and until next time, the arcade is closed.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the transdimensional spaceship Vic Viper. Its continuing mission: to explore strange new worlds and liberate them from the forces of evil. To seek out new life, new civilizations, and new enemies to blast. To boldly go where no arcade game has gone before. Next time, QG at the Arcade, the Gradius series. It's game time! Hey everyone, QG here. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the video around. Feel free to check out my Twitter and my Twitch streams, and consider supporting me through Patreon and donating to my Extra Life campaign to support Children's Wisconsin. Thanks for watching.